Hi my dear students, this is Sir Cromwell back again for another online class lecture. Last week we talked about the biogeochemical cycles of nature. There's the hydrologic or the water cycle, the carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle, and the oxygen cycle. There we learned that there are different pathways by which essential elements of living matter circulate. Recall that according to the law of conservation of matter, matter can neither be created nor destroyed. That means we have the same kind and number of atoms before and after chemical changes. Now, the earth is complex, life is complex, nature is complex, and it is hard to track how each and every atom moves in the unending process of chemical equations, and how that unending cyclical nature affects the environment and the biosphere as a whole. That's why we had the likes of the Biosphere 2, an Earth System Science Research Facility in Oracle, Arizona. We needed a 100% plus ultra enclosed space in order to track these relationships. That is why today we will be conceptualizing 3 class projects. The goal is to make a project that affects/benefits the local community from the foundation of geochemical cycles. And we need to track how the geochemical cycles play a role in these initiatives. So the objectives for today are: number 1, conceptualize the project related to the biogeochemical cycles that contribute to the community. Now we will be splitting the class into 3 groups, and each of the group makes 1 project. These projects can be, for example, composting organic waste from the market into fertilizer and giving it to farmers. It can be creating nutrient-rich seed bombs and restoring barren or degraded areas of the local area. For example, dry plains or those that are prone to drought. The project can also be, for example, removing algal bloom from ponds and lakes, or reducing the propagation of algal bloom in those ponds or lakes. It can also be, for example, encouraging the intercropping of encourage intercropping to promote nutrients in the soil, or other activities with similar nature. Second objective would be this: create a project plan outlining the key activities of each project. This is essential because each project requires thorough planning. You need to, for example, coordinate with municipality offices or LGUs, or identify point persons to communicate with. Now, you will also need to set set a timeline for execution, as well as a feasible deadline. Overall, you will also need to find ways to evaluate your team and your initiative through insight and feedback. Now, for the third objective, it would be this: identify all chemical interactions in your project. Now, this one is more class related. You have to list down chemical associations of your project. For example, if you choose to make seed bombs, you need to write how the nitrates in the soil would be used and turned into the proteins needed by the plants. Or if you chose to treat algal blooms, you can write how nutrients from sewage or from fertilizer abuse seeps into the water and becomes food for algae, making them prolific. Or if you want to farm mushrooms and use that in a feeding program initiative, you can write down where the nitrogen, carbon, and oxygen came from to make the chitin of the mushroom. Alright, so for the entire duration of your project, I'll be regularly assessing your team, so I implore you to be productive. I will be needing personal group evaluation, peer evaluation, overall project assessment from members of your team, and from the members of the other two teams. Members of the other two teams. So that will be 5 assessments that I will be requiring from you. This is to highlight that behavior, attitude, and performance is very important in group activities, especially those that are philanthropic by nature. As for your materials and resources, I encourage you to use documents digitally. For example, you may use Microsoft Office to create your resources and send it to me via messenger or email so as to cut on paper waste. Or if you do plan to submit it physically, you may use recycled paper po. Yeah, so I don't mind that there will be text or writings at the back of the paper, provided that the front pages would be, clean and readable. But for your project per se, it may be expensive depending on how you want to approach this requirement. So I will be helping you to appeal to city offices, LGUs, or even to NGOs or non-profit organizations to give you full or minimal grants depending on the scale of your initiative. This project would be a quarter-long project. So the goal is to realize the essence of science in the community. Science for the people, ika nga. So I'm encouraging you to help solve a local problem with what you know in science. I will be posting further details of the requirements in our Google Classroom, and that is it for this online class lecture. Bye-bye, students!